Hello, guys, and welcome to the Legendary Ladies podcast. And we're back to talk about some music because now I think we're just a music podcast at this point.
We love music.
We do. And the music person here is usually, I would say it's usually me when it comes to pop, but I always like hearing Amy's point of view because she actually like has a music background. So it's just me and Morgan who just really likes pop music.
I like having Amy on for these usually because she only listens to like classical music. So it's like it could be the biggest artist in the world. Like you could be like Amy, like we did listen to Taylor Swift, and she's like barely listened to any of it. So it's like it's all somehow new to her, which like for the rest of us, it's kind of isn't. You made her listen to the Beatles, and she like hadn't heard much of the Beatles. So it's kind of like meeting somebody who's been like cryogenically frozen, who hasn't experienced these like pop culture musical acts. So you get like such an interesting perspective from her when she like listens to this stuff.
I know. Hopefully, we maybe for a Patreon, we'll still have Amy listen to these albums and get thoughts on it. But
It'll be a Patreon exclusive, just Amy's thoughts.
just Amy, we quiz Amy and be like, "What did you think about this song?" But yeah, the reason I came up with this, Snow Angel came out a couple of months ago, I think, and Fletcher actually came out, I think, during the summer. But they're both queer artists, and they both had debut albums. Renee Rapp especially has kind of been getting a big name, so I'm like, why not do a little verses? And honestly, if you listen to the albums, they have a lot of similar themes.
I would say they sound similar. I think like not exactly the same. I wouldn't be like, oh, they sound exactly alike, but they have a similar vibe, I would say, honestly.
Yeah, no, for sure. And just to mention what the albums are, if you guys haven't heard it yet, Renee Rapp, it's Snow Angel, it's 12 songs, only 36 minutes, Spotify says. And then 17 songs. It is a deluxe version for Girl of My Dreams from Fletcher, and that's running about 49 minutes. And what's interesting about both artists is that they do have music previously. They have EPs. Renee Rapp, I want to say, only has one EP. I mean, I think
she had an EP, I think, that came out last year. But the thing that I thought was interesting when I was like looking her up is that her EP is almost as long as her full studio album, which I thought was kind of wild because her the Snow Angel had, I think it was 12 songs. Her EP, Everything to Everyone, has 7 songs. And if you get the deluxe one that came out earlier this year, it had 9 songs. So like it's almost a full album, honestly.
And Fletcher has honestly a couple of things before this. She has a lot of singles like Cherry, Girls, 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 and then Sex Tapes was an EP. I think there was another one before that. The You Ruined New York City for Me. What's so interesting about Fletcher, and Finding Fletcher was another one that was from 2016. Fletcher is such an interesting artist because she had so many false starts. So 2016, she's like kind of up and coming. I think she was on like one of and I don't know if she was on there for long, but she was on one of the singing competition shows. I don't know which one, maybe it was the X Factor. So she was on that. And then she started her career in 2016. And then she started to get recognition a lot more in, guess what, 2019. And guess what happened right before? Right after.
Oh, no.
Is the pandemic. And then I know that she was supposed to like tour with some One Direction person. And then,
God, that would have been so good for her.
Exactly. So she was on the rise, and then Miley last year for New Year's, she did the Miley Cyrus New Year's special thing, and she sang with her. And Becky's So Hot, I think, is a big TikTok song. She got Lyme disease recently and cannot sing.
Are you kidding?
I'm not joking.
Oh no!
This girl has so many false starts, and
she's got the worst luck of all time. It seems like
she really does, and she really got into the pocket of like queer music before, at the time of like the Hayley Kyokos, like around that time where like queer music, especially queer girl music, Girl in Red was becoming popular. Renee Rapp is interesting because she's a Broadway star. So she was in Mean Girls and kind of started there and then became a TV star with the sex lives of college girls. And then during this period, she started getting really popular with music. I remember I was telling Morgan, I think I asked you, I was like, oh, let's go see Renee Rapp. And then I was like, never mind, it's sold out. We're not going to go see Renee Rapp.
I remember we were thinking about it. We were like, oh, that could be fun, little fun trip to the city to see. Oh, it's sold out. It's completely sold out.
Sold out so quickly because it was such a small room. And then she started getting really popular, I think because she was on the show and the queer music. And then during the show, like I guess she was trying to tour and the show wouldn't allow her to do it, but then she also didn't inform the show. So now she just left the show and she's on the VMAs. She's like, becoming a bigger singer, and she's going to be in the Mean Girls movie, the musical movie as well.
Her feels like it's about to really take off, especially with the Mean Girls movie musical.
So where the trailer won't show any music.
The movie based on the musical, based on the movie. It's like we were talking about this on Supergirl Radio, that it's like a 30 Rock joke come to life, which is funny because it's written by Tina Fey.
True.
But yeah, she they just released the like you said, the trailer for the movie that included no singing. But it feels like I think a lot of people are going to go see it. I think she's going to become kind of a big thing after this movie. It's what it's starting to feel like.
I was in the city, had like dinner with my brother or something, and we were walking past, and we were just like walking to the car, and I saw like inside one of the stores a picture of Renee Rapp like selling perfume. I'm like, already? And I thought I thought I was like I started to understand that more people know who Renee Rapp is. I felt like for like last year, I felt like I was like, all right, I'm the only one who knew who this person is, and now she's becoming a little bit bigger as a singer.
I remember because when you were like, do you want to go see Renee Rapp? I said,
who?
I said, the girl from the TV show, she sings. I was vaguely aware of who she was, but only because I watched the sex lives of college girls on HBO Max and I really liked it. But other than that, I would have had no idea.
Yeah, no, she's becoming a bigger name now, and I wanted to talk about these debut albums. So let's go overall thoughts first, and then we'll kind of go either track by track or kind of dive in a little deeper. But what did you think? And this is the first time you've listened to both of them, right?
Yeah, I had listened to one or two like Renee Rapp songs before, only because when we found out that she was a singer, we like looked her up. And we like listened to one of her songs and we were like, oh, it's good. But I like didn't then like continue down her discography. And so I'd never listened to this album before, definitely. But my knowledge of her was like listening to one song one time, which I wouldn't say is like a deep knowledge of her.
Well, you have a deep knowledge style. Now.
Now I do. I've listened to her album like twice now on various drives and cleaning my house over the last week. So I'm now an expert
on Renee Rapp. You're actually writing her biography, I heard.
As we speak, I'm actually writing her biography.
Called Mean Girls, the movie.
The musical, the movie.
based on the book.
By Renee Rapp. No, I liked her. I liked Snow Angel. I liked this debut album. I thought it's so funny because obviously when you're listening to two different albums, it's almost impossible not to compare them.
Which is what we're here to do.
Which is exactly what we're here to do. It's a face-off. And I thought they both had similar sounds. I think they both have great voices. I think Fletcher's stuff is catchier though. I
agree.
Fletcher's stuff, I remembered the songs after I listened to them like once. I could listen to the song once and then maybe have it stuck in my head. Whereas the Renee Rapp songs I really liked while I was listening to them, but then I would get out of my car and do something else and be like, I don't remember what was that song? Like, how did it go? The one song I think that she has that is very, very catchy, which I think I'd actually heard before listening to the album because it came up in a Spotify suggestion thing, was Pretty Girls.
Yeah, I agree.
Which I think is
one of her singles.
Yeah, I think it's a really solid song. I think it's catchy. I think it gets stuck in your head after you've listened to it. Some of the other songs I were like a little almost on the too slow side for me sometimes, where it's like, yeah, I like a good ballad, but then like having like a couple almost ballady things in a row starts to give it sameness.
But there also felt like it wasn't a ballad at all, and that's the thing I didn't love about the album is that it felt too safe. Where it's like I wish you kind of did the Miley Cyrus song, where it's like complete ballad, feels like The Climb. But with
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
she has such a high voice that a lot of times it doesn't feel like this emotional wrenched ballad. It's just like almost background noise, and that's something I noticed about this album in particular, where I was listening while I worked and I was like, oh, what was that song? And I kind of have to go back. But then the songs I agreed, like the ones that really popped, I think Talk Too Much is a good opener, and I've heard it before, so that
Yeah,
was good.
I was gonna agree
Mhm.
with that one. I liked that song in that I liked the way that she has that sort of interstitial part in the song where she just starts talking too much and like
Right.
digging her own grave, like where she's obviously talking to like a romantic partner and she's like, no, no, I mean, it's not like I hate you. I'm not saying I hate you, but like you did this thing that annoyed me, but no, that I didn't mean it like that. And like you can see what like the song is talking about, where it's like instead of like letting there be a moment of silence, she's just filling it and like digging her own grave worse and worse. And I thought that was funny to have that like little part where she's talking in the song. And usually stuff like that kind of annoys me, but I liked it in this song. I thought it was kind of clever.
And I feel like it kind of has like this rock kind of sound to it, which really works. And then I Hate Boston. I was like, all right, this is good. I like this song. But as you get more and more, they all kind of sound the same until for me, So What Now? That's honestly my favorite songs. It was the first time I heard it. And it's just something about it. I really liked the sound of it. And lyric wise, I don't know if there's anything that really caught me. And that's something I'm definitely going to compare Fletcher to Renee Rapp, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, honestly, it's the singles and that were the only ones where it really stood apart. And 23 for the beginning, just because there's the Michael Jordan reference. I'll give you that. But yeah, I feel like I really like the EP. And I don't know if you've
Mhm.
heard it, but I felt like the EP was a lot stronger. There's songs
Interesting.
that punch a little bit more.
Mhm.
Don't Tell My Mom is a really good song. Too Well, like every single song on there, I think is a banger because it goes almost full on ballad. Where this tries to be more commercial, but also tries to be Broadway. So it's like, which one are you trying to do? And obviously, it's a success. It is commercial because people are liking it. But I like the
Yeah.
other one because it felt less commercial.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to her EP. I remember that one song I listened to was actually very
Mm.
slow, but I remember being like, wow, I really like her voice. I think her voice is really pretty, and I think this song is really pretty. Whereas, yeah, I would agree. I think this album is reaching a little bit more for like it's not trying to be pop exactly, but it's trying to like even in the ballads, I agree with you. It's trying to be catchy more than like just doing like a straight ballad. And I think the problem is that like that kind of makes all of them start to sound again similar. So some of them,
Yeah.
yeah, stand out to me and I can remember it. But I realized I couldn't remember what like So What Now sounded like. Like when you mentioned it, I was like, I don't remember that one.
I only remember the sound of it because the twice I listened to it, it took me out of whatever I was working on because it sounded so different, and I was like,
Oh
"Oh, cool."
yeah.
Or else, like, yeah, they kind of all meshed together. Where I was like, "All right." I do want to talk about lyrically, and then we'll get to Fletcher's
Mhm.
album. But I feel like what's so interesting about both these albums, and I didn't do it on purpose because again, I hadn't actually listened to Snow Angel. I just knew like two of her songs on there. I'm like, oh, they're both queer first albums. I think that'd be kind of cool. But the Fletcher album I did listen to because I really do like Fletcher. And I think lyrically they're both talking about the same thing. I don't know if they're the same age. Let me see. Renee Rapp is definitely young. I'm guessing she's 23 because that's what she's 23. Fletcher is I have a feeling she's gonna be more my age, but let's see. Yeah, she's literally
Renee
my
Rapp
age,
is really
29.
Renee Rapp is really 23. Oh my god.
Yeah. She's
That's
23 and
hilarious.
Fletcher is literally my age, 29.
Yeah.
And lyrically, you can tell. It's like it's so interesting how introspective Fletcher is and how Renee Rapp is trying to be introspective. Like there's moments where you're like, yeah, that she is talking. Yeah, she's talking to that girl too much. Or, maybe Boston really was a bad place, but never goes past surface level. But with Fletcher, and maybe because I know a bit about her, and like, I guess what she's basing a lot of her songs on, but it feels like I'm on this roller coaster with Fletcher. I'm like, yeah, girl, I feel it, like it just feels more mature. And that's not to say that's either one's bad or good because of it. But for me, what I could relate to more was someone like Fletcher than Renee Rapp.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. I do think the lyrics were good, I think, but like I agree. I think I think, the next album that she does, I think she seems like she really wants to do music, even though she's obviously also very talented at acting. But I'm sure like the albums will like build on each other. But this one, yeah, there were sometimes when I was like, okay, like some of the lyrics I liked, and then sometimes I was just like, this feels like a little bit, sometimes a little by the numbers, you know what I mean?
Sure. Let's get into Fletcher now. So let's go to her album and to give a little context. This is some Fletcher lore. Fletcher dated this girl named Sharon Beveridge, who was a big YouTuber. Like she was a big lesbian YouTuber, and like they dated because she like did a music video with Fletcher, and they dated for like 4 years. And they broke up, amicably. It wasn't like, oh man, this person cheated. And a lot of, if you listen to her album, you hear that, right? It's about that girl. The whole entire album is about her. So if you want any background on it, that's who it's about. And they like quarantined together, and while they broke up, and they made the EP Sex Tapes. That's Sex Tapes, but with an X in it. So X Tapes. And then this is about like her girlfriend moving on and how she feels about it. And Becky's So Hot is literally the name of that girl's, I guess, current girlfriend. I don't know if they're still together, but at the time, that was her current girlfriend's name. Yeah.
That is so funny.
So I found that very interesting. But let's talk about the opener, 20 something. I really liked it. I really just thought, one thing I like about this album in general, and I keep saying it's just so introspective about her life, but I think anyone's life, about how she's like, okay, how can I be better to myself, and how does that relate to my romantic partners, and what does it mean to be in your late 20s? Like, what is life, pretty much. And I like a good existential crisis, but that is what this is about. It's like, it's about her wanting self-love, and she doesn't know if I won't say deserves it, because I think there's a confidence behind everything, but she doesn't know how to obtain it. And she's trying to figure out, like, how can I love myself? And that's like literally this whole entire album.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like the scope of their ages too, because I feel like it does, like, I wasn't kind of surprised when it turned out she's like, what, 29?
Yeah.
It feels like, the end of your 20s, this album, versus the beginning of your 20s, like Renee Rapp's does, where it's kind of like, okay, like, what do I want? And like, she has some experience under her belt. I think one of my favorite ones was one of my favorite songs was, and I'm trying to remember the title, Better Version, which is all about like how the next person that you date gets the better version of you. And that's true for like her and for her ex, like that they supported each other and had this great relationship, and then broke up. And then the person who's dating them next is getting like the better version of them that like the other person didn't get. And I thought that was a really interesting, thing to explore in a song that I hadn't necessarily heard before, is, that she's kind of sad that like, isn't it like kind of messed up that the next person gets the better version. I thought that the lyrics on that actually worked really well.
And it's so interesting because the lyrics for this album isn't like Shakespeare, right? And I think that's what I love about this album. It feels so personal. Like, one of my favorite songs on here is Birthday Girl, because when you hear the album, like the song name,
I do like that one too. Yeah,
because you listen to, it's a story. Like, you listen to the beginning of that song and you're like, why is it called birthday? It's just like a happy birthday. Like, what is this? And then you listen, it's like, oh, the girl she dated had the same birthday as her, and it's all she can think about. And I'm like, that cuts deep. That's crazy.
Yeah, and I like that, the through line in the song is like, is this also making you miserable? Like at every birthday, I have to think about, like, I have to wonder what she's up to, this ex of mine, because we had the same birthday, and I wonder if that is the case for her too. Did think that was interesting because, like you said, from the title, I was like, okay, what's this going to be about? And I would have never guessed, like, oh yeah, my ex and I have the same birthday, and it's going to haunt me for the rest of my life now.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see a breakup album that's not fuck you. It's a breakup
Yeah.
album saying you actually are an awesome person, and I wish there was another land where we could have worked out. Because it's so interesting. And Birthday Girl does it too, where it talks about like, I loved you for these reasons. I thought this was so unique that we had the same birthday. But then as time went on and years went on, I realized, man, this sucks. You know,
I
it's the
realize
things
this is
I
actually
loved
a
about,
bad thing.
yeah, the things I loved about you, I hate about you, but also you're such a wonderful human being, so I hate hating you. And that's this album, and it's so different because all breakup songs tend to be like, oh, rebound, or like, you sucked, you cheated on me. This is not it. This is a more complicated, more complex album about someone you will always love, but know that is not right for you or not the right time. And I find that to be so poetic about this album.
Yeah, I agree actually. A lot of breakup songs are very much like, yeah, it's great that we broke up, since you've been gone. I can breathe now. And the breakup songs on this album were kind of like, it sucks that we couldn't work it out, and like, I think you're great, and your new girlfriend's really hot, and that makes me mad. And I don't blame you for thinking she's hot. I think she's hot too, and that makes me even madder. And I think that you don't really get songs like that all that often. It's usually, one way or the other. It's usually we didn't work out and I cry myself to sleep about it every night, or we didn't work out because you're a terrible, terrible piece of shit. And this album is like, we didn't work out, we couldn't make it work. And, I hope for the best for you, but also I'm so bummed about it. And I think you don't really get that. And I think that's probably closer to most people's like experience of relationships, is that like, we tried to make it work. We couldn't make it work. Like, I still have fond memories, but like, I cannot see your hot girlfriend on Instagram anymore.
No, it's true. I think there's going to be a lot more people that relate to this, especially again, when you compare it to the age range. Maybe the 23-year-old, yeah, maybe you'll get the cheaters in there, you'll get whatever,
Yeah.
the more party stories. But this is more like, I don't know what my life is going to be now going into my 30s, and like, what do I want out of life? And again, I think what's interesting, going back to like the rebound thing, and I think there is an actual line where she talks about, well, because it builds up to it, where I think it's the girl of my dreams that talks about it, or maybe it's I think it's Girl of Your Dreams, where she talks about like, oh, it started out with a boy and then this other girl actually did suck. That was like, that's the early 20s song where it's like, this girl in New York really ruined my life. And then the third person being the girl she's talking about. And then she's like, oh, and I have a rebound. And you're like, oh, well, who's the rebound? Like, all right, you just, and then you find out she's like, I just want to be a better version of myself, because I think the reason this relationship didn't work out is because I wasn't the best version of myself.
Yeah. And I also think, honestly, just hearing a song that is hearing artists that are this like just confidently openly bisexual too is so interesting. Like in The Girl of My Dreams, like she talks about like, my first heartbreak was this guy, my second heartbreak was this girl. Like, it's so interesting because I feel like we're just starting to get into like music kind of like being a little bit more explicitly queer in that way, where it's like not just the girl singing about the guy or the guy singing about the girl. Like it's still kind of like, when I was listening to these albums, still kind of like, oh yeah, she's singing about a girl. Like that's still, it's crazy that in 2023 that's still like a little bit surprising, but like it is honestly, I like, it's hard to, there aren't that many mainstream artists that are putting out songs that are like, explicitly queer like this.
And what's interesting about her songs too, because obviously, yeah, if you listen to that one, she's singing about a
Yeah.
girl. But the other songs, you can be in any type of relationship, queer, not queer, and you could put yourself in her shoes because of the way she uses her pronouns and uses other people's
Absolutely,
pronouns,
yeah.
which is really interesting. So it's just like, oh, wait, you're really trying to make this for everybody. And Renee Rapp, again, I keep going back to the EP because I think she did a good job. And they're both bisexual creators. But Renee Rapp, Colorado, she kind of does a similar thing where she's like, oh, I wish I could go to Colorado where everything's kind of easier. And, you know, I could just pick up this girl, I could pick up this guy. Colorado is a really good song where she talks about, like, she kind of deconstructs herself a little bit where she's like, I can move, but then I wouldn't have anything to complain about, you know? And it's just like, and I wanted more of that in Snow Angel where we got a little bit more story from her. And again, the mom song that she has in the EP is pretty much about, like, it's a really personal story where she talks about, like, every single time I call my mom and I don't want her to worry about me, and I'm tired of, like, telling, like, her having to worry about me, so I lie to her and I tell her everything's okay when nothing's okay. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good song that I'm sure a lot of people could relate to, especially as you kind of enter your early 20s and you're like kind of figure out your own life, and you have to make the phone call with your mom. You don't live with them anymore. You're making more of the phone call. You're making the choice to have a relationship with your parents,
and you can hide more too. Like, once you're out of the house, you like can choose not to tell your mom some stuff that maybe you're not as proud of, or like maybe that things aren't going so well. You can kind of present a face. Whereas, like, when you were younger and you lived at home, it was a little hard to cover up some stuff. Yeah, sneak it in. Yeah, I think that, I haven't listened to that EP, but now I'm gonna want to go and listen, because that does sound like kind of a universal experience a lot of people have, is like that, you know, moving out and sort of moving up with your life, but then like giving your parents the highlights instead of like what is actually happening. Like, where it's not going so well. I had a crappy day, and then you talk to your parents and you're like, no, it's great.
It's been great.
It's been so good.
It's great. Twitch's eye, but you're on the phone, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
But, you know, I think what's interesting too, it kind of goes back to, like, how much do you say? And even with the Renee Rapp song, she's saying enough, but she's not saying everything. She's not saying everything that's going wrong. And that's okay, because I think songs could be that and should be that. But then again, you get into Fletcher and you like almost need a map, a lesbian map to figure out. And I'm using lesbian as an umbrella term. I know she's queer or bi. I don't know which label she uses. I don't think she actually uses a label. I think she uses queer. But just the joke of the lesbian map of, like, okay, so she dated this person, this person, this person, that's why she feels these things. And I almost love that, right? Like, I almost love that that's a part too, because it feels more like I like songs where it feels like a storybook. And like I could kind of like get in the head to somebody. But I do think universal songs are important too, where it's just like, yeah, this could kind of be about anything. And I also like songs that you have to dig a little deeper for what the meaning is. Like, I recommend Maggie Rogers. You know, it's so funny. So
I like
do you
her.
Listen?
I've heard a little bit of her. Yeah. And it's one of those things, I'm outing myself here, but like, I've been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift, like most of the world has this year.
Right.
And sometimes like I'll be listening to Taylor Swift and I'm in the car and it'll get to the end of her album, and Spotify will do that thing where it just starts playing things it thinks I'll like. And it always puts on Maggie Rogers at the end of it. And I'm always thinking, I need to look her up and listen to more of her stuff, because I really like it.
Maybe we should do a show on that next, because this is Maggie. I got to talk about Maggie Rogers, because this is a very interesting little roller coaster ride. So I liked her album a lot. The Heard It in a Past Life. I'm looking on Spotify. It came out in 2019. You know, the songs you're probably going to hear on Spotify is like Alaska, Lights On. You know, those are her more popular songs. And then Surrender came out, which is her newest album. I remember I listened to one song and like, I'm not feeling it. This is not my Maggie Rogers. This is not radio Maggie Rogers. This is like weirder. And she cut her hair. She had a new look. So I felt like, you know, she changed her image a lot. And not saying that's a bad thing, but I was like, oh yeah, she's a different singer now. And then something made me go back to it. And I read an article that during the pandemic, she went to Harvard and got a degree, a graduate degree. And she talked about the idea of going to a concert and the importance of live performances and music and how that relates to spirituality and religion. I'm like, what? There's a Harvard paper about this. And her recent album is based on that paper. So everything she wrote on the
Really?
paper is this album, which is Surrender. And I was like, let me listen to it again.
That's so
And I listened,
interesting.
right? And I was like, nah, I gotta listen to this. So I listened to I think the first one I heard is That's Where I Am, and it's more of the poppy song. It's the single, and I think that's why I was like, all right, whatever. And then I listened to Anywhere with You, and I listened to the song, and it's about this girl who's kind of miserable with this guy, or at least in first listen, I was like, she doesn't even like this guy. What's going on? There's a lyric, I have to find it because it's such a it's something that's stood with me.
You know, it's funny. I'm
Mhm.
looking at this track list, and I saw the album art for Surrender, and I was like, okay, I've absolutely gotten served up a song from this album as well. And I think I've heard Shatter before, which makes sense that my
Uh-huh.
Spotify would surface that for me because according to IMDb, it features Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine, and I
That
love
makes
Florence and
sense.
the Machine. So Spotify was probably like, "Well, you love Florence, you'll love Maggie."
Yeah, no, she's that's what I do like about Spotify is that they tend to do that. I hear let me
I mean,
try to find
Spotify
it.
doesn't pay artists enough for the music that is on their platform, but it's as a consumer, it is a very convenient app. I will say that.
No, it's I agree because then you're like, okay, you get to see like, all right, what are the good artists? But I did find the lyric because the song. So going back to it, the song, she has a sounds like she has like a sucky boyfriend or whatever, and but then she's going in a car with him, and I was like, okay, this is interesting. And the lyric is roll the windows down, kill the radio. I'd rather hear the wind than hear that song I'm supposed to know from some fucking bro. And I was like, that's so good. And then you listen to the song again, and I listened 2 or 3 times, and I found the real meaning of the song is that she loves this boy so much that she's fine with putting up with the bullshit. Because the beginning of the song is like he's watching television, he's ignoring her, she's picking up his clothes. I'm like, this doesn't sound good. But then she's like, I can deal with all those little things just as you could deal with like my panic attacks. But because we've been together for so long, all love songs are about the beauty of someone. This song is about how even in the things I hate about you the most, I love you. And I'm like, that's such an interesting song. And I love songs like
Yeah.
that where you're like, oh, I heard something else originally because I saw it surface level. And then you hear it again. You're like, oh, that's actually what that song meant.
That's so interesting. Now I want to go listen to that because that's so interesting because I think that is like such an interesting perspective where, any relationship, whether it's romantic or friendship or whatever, there's definitely times when like the other person is annoying, say, and
Exactly.
we have to figure out how to deal with their personality quirks. And like, yeah, like you can't just throw the whole thing in the garbage because somebody like, didn't pick up after themselves one day or something like that. And yeah, you don't get a lot of songs about like, I love you so much, but like the music you listen to is bad.
It's like I literally want to roll down the window and hear anything else with this song. and
I love you
I love
so
that.
much, but your musical taste is terrible. You don't hear that in a song a lot.
Coming from a Harvard graduate, your music taste is horrible.
That is brutal. That is brutal.
Um,
Her partner somewhere is like, ouch.
and it's such a, and then you hear the again, the song is called Anywhere with You. Like, it's like, yeah, I hate the things you do, but I will go on that road trip with you and we'll make
Listen
it
to your
fun.
terrible music.
And I love artists like that. So I think, I think there's a middle ground. And the reason I bring up Maggie Rogers, and again, it maybe when we get Amy on, we'll do a Maggie Rogers versus her pop mainstream album
Oh yeah.
Surrender that wasn't mainstream. But the reason I mention is that Renee Rapp, 23 years old, she is doing more of these kind of mainstream songs that would be more radio hits. Then we get something like Fletcher that's so introspective that you need the lesbian map for to understand. And then you get something like Maggie Rogers where it's like so introspective that you got to listen to the songs over again to even understand what it's
Wait a minute,
about.
what's this about?
And also just somehow talks about the spirituality of live music, which I'll have to look into more. But yeah, I find that super interesting. And I don't think Maggie Rogers is a queer artist, but I just find it interesting to see like the different I think as you get older as an artist, and we talked about it with Olivia Rodrigo too, and I don't think you're on for that, Morgan, but we talked about like
that one.
I wonder where Olivia will be 4 albums from now. She's so young, and she's kind of talking about very similar things. But then she did a cover of Seasons of the Sticks, I think it's called, by Noah.
Oh something. Yeah, Mike is obsessed with that cover that she did.
It's so good.
It's because it's so good. He made me listen to the original song, and then he made me listen to Olivia's version. He's like, "Isn't Olivia's version so great?" I was like, "Yes, Mike, it's great." But yeah, it is. She did such a great job on that cover.
And it's folky. It feels mature, and I'm like, oh man, I wonder where she's gonna be 4 albums from now when she does. I hope lean into the folk, because I think obviously Olivia's very popular. She's making good music. She's got no problem in that regard. But I think artistically, I'd really love her to go that route, because I think her voice fits it so well. It's something she hasn't really explored in her actual albums.
I think the sound that she has right now is so very fun, and I really, really like it. And I feel like she needs
to have less fun.
Not to name drop Taylor again, my girl Taylor Swift, but like I feel like she's an artist who's gonna evolve as the years go on, and is gonna find different sounds and do different things with her sound instead of staying in this like very one niche. And I am very interested like when she tries out different sounds, because I agree. I think that like her voice, it really lends itself to some of those other sounds just as well as like the pop stuff that she's doing right now.
And I want to completely say folk, because I think when people think folk, they think country, and I do definitely think they're 2 different genres. And
yes, I agree.
Not bashing country, but I also don't want a country album from Olivia. That's too fun. I want something and not saying I want her to be sad, but I want a sad album. I want a slow album where she's just on the guitar crying her eyes out, and in the woods or something.
She's playing the banjo suddenly.
Yeah, I want that. That's what I need from her, is just like sad existential songs about what it's like.
I love it. I would listen to it. I would be first in line to listen to that Olivia Rodrigo album. It's like, it's so sad. So many banjos.
I would love to see that. But yeah, going back to it, let's rap with Renee Rapp.
Yeah, let's rap about rap.
Renee Rapp does a rap album.
It's so funny. You mentioned that would be really funny. You mentioned songs that had like a little bit of a story to them, and it made me think about the one Renee Rapp song where she's talking about like she's angry at, I can't remember. She's angry at this guy because he likes this other girl, and she's like, at some point they're gonna have babies, and then the babies are gonna grow up and they're gonna be monsters. That's Pretty Girls. But then somebody's gonna break their heart, and I'm gonna like laugh. And I thought that I kind of liked the story there. Like she's like mad, and she's like imagining in her head, she's like, in 20 years their daughter is gonna get her heart broken, just like I got mine, and I'm playing a long game of revenge.
She's gotta wait.
Yeah, she's like, I can't remember. It's called. So the song is called "Tummy Hurts," which which to me, I had to like double check. I was like, that's what the song title was. Like, it doesn't really make sense. But she says, eventually 2043, someone's gonna hurt their little girl like their daddy hurt me. And like that's a long range revenge plan.
That's
right?
so gay. That's the gayest revenge plan I've heard.
Right? It's like, no. Wait, I'm going to wait 20 years, and then I'm gonna laugh when their daughter gets their heart broken. And it's like,
does she laugh at the daughter? Does she laugh with
who are you laughing at? Renee, who are you laughing? Renee, go outside and touch grass. No, but that one really made me laugh, because it's like, there's like being mad that you got broken up with, and then there's being mad that you got broken up with, and then being like, I wish a hex upon your future child. That is like witch in the woods energy, which is incredibly gay as well.
I hope that she gets over it by then. I hope the next album is called "My Tummy Doesn't Hurt Anymore." And
Renee Rapp has taken a couple Rolaids at that point. She's feeling better.
She's like, you know what?
You
I
know
was
what?
harsh.
Maybe this future child you haven't had is going to be fine. I don't know. Who could know?
I hope that her heart isn't that broken. I'm over it now. I hope and then she just has another person she hopes that the daughter of like this person she's
Oh
okay
my
with
God.
now. She's like,
I'm over
okay.
that one, but I am still not over the other one.
Like I'm on to another daughter that needs to be born, that needs to get their heart broken. There is definitely narrative with Renee Rapp, but I think you gotta almost make it up a little bit.
I also liked the what was the other one? Poison, where she's talking about like you could poison. Like I thought the when I'm
That's
looking at
also
the
very
lyrics,
witchery.
it's very maybe
witchcraft.
we're discovering a theme in this album, which is like witchcraft. It's
She's a witch.
We're not saying she's a witch, but she could be a witch.
It's alleged that she's a witch.
Allegedly, maybe she's a witch. But no, I liked that one, especially. It's so funny, like reading the lyrics, it seems like it would be like more of a, not like an upbeat song, but like more up tempo. And then I was like hearing it in my head, and it's actually a pretty like slow tempo song. It's kind of like jazzy. It's kind of jazzy, but it's angry. It's angry jazzy, which is interesting mix.
I can't think of any, like, besides Talk Too Much, there's not many fast-paced songs on this album.
I think Pretty Girls is probably the fastest pace, and like Talk Too Much and Pretty Girls are probably the two fastest paced songs on the album.
And it's interesting because going back to comparing Fletcher and Renee, they both have very high voices. And when I think of Renee, because I think about Broadway, I keep forgetting she has such a again, not a music expert, but high tempo. Like it's just like I always think it's like it's gonna be deeper because she could hold it for so long. But they both really they have very angelic. I mean, it's interesting especially when I heard Snow Angel, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm in a church. I was like, oh
yeah, that's
I wonder
true.
why.
It is very like pretty, to lack of a better descriptor. They both have very pretty voices, I think, like high and like, you know, really nice, but yeah, they're not like deep voices.
But I also want to go back to Fletcher because I think her album is more diverse because we kept talking about the songs that are very introspective and about, you know, maybe not about putting hexes on people, but Sucker Punch, Sting, Becky's So Hot, those are three that come to mind, are very pop songs. They are like,
yeah, that's true.
To the numbers, you would hear this on the radio, pop songs. And next to, again, maybe some more ballads, quiet ballads, like For Carrie. Like you mentioned, a better version. Like it's a better balanced album. And maybe because it has a deluxe version and they're able, I think Sucker Punch actually was added to the deluxe. It wasn't in the original, but like, I just feel like it just feels better crafted.
You know what? I forgot about Sucker Punch, and then as soon as you said it, I heard the bridge in my head, like punch. And Sucker Punch almost has like a little bit of I'm trying to think of like the right artist, maybe like even like a Robin feel to it, like where it's like more upbeat. And yeah, I could imagine it on who were we comparing Taylor Swift's album Midnights to? It was
Carly Rae.
Carly, yes. Like Sucker Punch sounds like it could be on like a Carly album, I think.
I wonder how many streams some of these songs. It's hard because sometimes Spotify shows it to you and sometimes they don't.
I feel like sometimes Spotify lies to you, like when you go up to at the top and it tells you the most popular. And then you're like, okay, but like the number 2 has way more streams than number 1. So how is number 1 the most popular? Like, explain that to me.
Because why do you keep lying to me?
Because like for Renee Rapp, it says number 1 is Pretty Girls at like 13 million streams. And then number 2 is Too Well at 54 million streams. So explain to me how Pretty Girls is number 1.
Can we also talk about that? That's super interesting that there's like a machine going on right now. Why are we getting such Renee Rapp conversation? Like she's in your face more than Fletcher, but Fletcher times a million gets more downloads.
Yeah, it does. Oh my God. Like so
right?
many more. Yeah, because so Fletcher's most popular song has
Is
been
Bitter.
streamed 155 million times.
Granted, it's an older song. Like
Yeah.
Undrunk, I think came from a couple of years ago. But even her current album, Becky's So Hot,
30 million. Yeah.
30 million. I would say actually is no, honestly, to her new album, it did double Pretty Girls.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, even Serial Heartbreaker, which is her number 5 most streamed, again, these metrics are insane because
Mm-hmm.
her number 2 most streamed has 35 million and her number 3 has 169 million. So explain this ranking system to me, Spotify. But like Serial Heartbreaker has 20 million, which is like compared to Renee Rapp is more than her, number 4 and 5 pretty much. It's more than Pretty Girls. Yeah. Pretty Girls only had 13 million. So yeah, I feel like Renee Rapp is like more popular right now because of the fact that she also does other things. So she also
Right.
acts
And doesn't have Lyme
and
disease.
does that's gonna help her go out and perform. Yeah, she can do concerts. Pandemic has not foiled her career plans. Yeah, I feel like right now she's Renee Rapp is just blowing up because of Mean Girls. I think
Yeah.
it helps that she was on the Mindy Kaling show, that she was on the Sex Lives of College Girls, and that people really liked it, even if it wasn't like a big, a cultural juggernaut or anything like that. Like the people who liked it. And I think then her, popping up in Mean Girls, because Mean Girls has been such a cultural like phenomenon for so many years. It's like, a cult favorite movie. People still quote it all the time. So I feel like just being in the musical version of that is going to put her in the conversation. She's like playing Regina George. It's like a very iconic role.
She has more Instagram followers too. I was just looking at that. So Renee Rapp has over 1 million, and Fletcher has close to 1 million. So, but by
Mm-hmm.
200,000 or so, Renee Rapp, who has been doing it for a little less time, has more followers as well. It's just interesting because I do think that commercially, Renee Rapp, I think in the next 2 years is going to be like most people are going to know her name, especially after Mean Girls. I think a lot of people are going to know her name.
I agree. And to be fair, when you suggested this topic, I was like, okay, I know who Renee Rapp is. And you were
Who's
like,
Fletcher?
you're like, and then we'll do it versus Fletcher. And I was like, versus who? Who is that? Which is so funny because I came out of listening to both albums, thinking that both albums were pretty good, right? But like, yeah, the Fletcher one stuck with me more. The Fletcher one was the one where I was humming it around the house, where I was like remembering the specific songs, whereas the Renee Rapp one kind of came and went. It was like you mentioned, it was good background music. I think like putting on the Renee like Snow Angel and like working on a project would be great, like a nice background music.
Oh yeah.
But I think like, that's probably not what she was going for so much. But yeah, it's so funny because I went in not knowing who Fletcher was at all. So I think that Renee Rapp is definitely winning in terms of like name recognition.
Yeah, and I guess that's the question for me. Like, obviously, I'm going to listen to both, but I think it does show that I forgot to listen to Snow Angel. Not forgot, but like I only listened to pieces of it. But like when Fletcher's came out, I like listened to the whole album, and I was like, wow, okay. And I think it's just because your single, like her single, was like catchier to me, so I was more excited. And then when I listened to Pretty Girls, I'm like, that's just okay, and I liked it. Don't get me wrong, but compared to her EP, I liked her EP a lot more. So yeah, I guess the question is, are you going to continue listening, and who are you going to listen to? If both not, what are you going to be listening to these albums again?
Yeah, you know what? I think I am, honestly. I had to run an errand today and I was like, well, I have to do my homework. But I had already listened to both albums already, and I like threw one on and like went into the car and like went to go do my errand. So yeah,
you did your album.
I did my album. I made my own album. It's called Morgan Needs to Get Cat Food.
It's going to be a big hit.
It's going to be a big hit with all the cat ladies out there. You guys hear me? But like, yeah, I think it's going to end up in the rotation. I think I'm going to like put like some of the songs on playlists and like listen to them. I really do like both of these artists. And now I think I'm also going to dig up some of their earlier stuff because it got me interested enough to be like, okay, I think it's time to like, what was like Fletcher's old albums. Like you mentioned Renee Rapp's like EP. I'm probably going to listen to that now. I think they both have really good voices. I think they both have like really good sounds. So I'm interested I'm going to follow along like the next albums that they release. I'll probably listen to those too.
What's so interesting about Fletcher's old albums, again, 2016, she had to be 23-ish. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Around 23. And if you listen to those songs, they're very similar to Renee Rapp in a way where they don't have a ton of substance, but they're fun. I would even say Renee Rapp has a little bit more substance in her current stuff. But if you listen to songs like Undrunk and Bitter, Undrunk, it's exactly what it sounds like. She is she's like jealous of somebody, and there's a lot of rebound songs, and they're fun, they're catchy, but they're not something that's going to stick with you lyrically. And it's interesting to see her graduate to something like this because she did have a lot of poppy songs, which granted is what made her, at least for some people in the queer community, a name, or almost a name before COVID and Lyme disease, because she had a lot of poppy songs that hit it off early on, and that's why she was able to do more songs like this.
You know what is really interesting? I'm now on her Wikipedia page, of course, and I had no idea that she is from Asbury Park, New Jersey.
Oh, so, I should have mentioned that. She is from Asbury Park. She does a lot of shows at the Stone Pony. Okay, so
my gosh, now I want to go see one of her shows.
Funny enough, so I went to Asbury Park for Pride to do our comics, and me and Dan, my friend, we worked the Pride. Phil was doing another convention, believe it or not, on the same day. So it was me and Dan, and their cousin came over, and we're like, what are you doing here? Why are you in New Jersey? Because they live in Staten Island. And they're like, oh, we're here to go see the Fletcher concert. And we're like, there's a Fletcher concert? And I wanted to go, but we were so tired. And I was and we just didn't end up going because it was just such a long day. And then Dan's like, I promise you when Fletcher plays again, we're going to go. And my birthday came along, and Dan's looking for a birthday gift. He's like, I was really looking for those Fletcher tickets. I said, well, the news is that she won't be playing for a little while. But yeah, so I actually almost saw her during Pride. She plays all the time over there because that's like her home turf.
That's so funny. Yeah, it seems like she's based out of LA now, but I love that she plays Asbury Park. And I've actually never seen a show at the Stone Pony. But I've walked past it many times. Like sometimes when they're setting up like the summer stage, I mean, I feel like you could just go to one of the bars nearby and like hear everything that's playing on the summer stage when they do that in the summertime. But next time she goes to the Stone Pony, I think I'm gonna have to like look up tickets. Hopefully it won't be a Renee Rapp situation where it sells out immediately before
we'll go together for that one.
That'd be so fun.
We'll do the Fletcher together for sure. No, I'd be curious to see when she performs again. And I think it would be something like that. And I think it'll be interesting to see what their concerts look like. I think Renee Rapp has her own tour now, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Which is crazy. I want to see, but I was like, oh, it depends on who they headline, like who, they're the special guest for. But I realized Renee Rapp is headline now. Let me see. I don't know how big of a stage it is. Yeah, the tour. She's gonna be in Paris. She's gonna be overseas. Yeah, I think she already finished it. Maybe her tour. I feel like she was in New York. I don't remember for what, but she is touring. That's why she didn't do the Sex Lives of College Girls anymore because she was touring.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I see that she's in. I don't know if this is next year or.
Maybe it's next year.
Or something, but like, yeah, she's in Paris, she's in Germany. Looks like she's doing like a UK or a Europe leg of the tour. She's in, the UK a lot, it seems like, in Berlin and Paris and things like that in February and March. So that is interesting. Yeah, I mean, she's really getting around.
Yeah, no, she's got a crowd. So my thing was going to be like, I wonder who they tour for. But at this point, I don't think they need to, unless you have like a Taylor Swift And I mean, look, if you do a Taylor Swift tour, your career is made after that. So,
oh yeah. If you have enough music to do a huge tour like Taylor Swift and make a tour movie and then make $1 billion, you're doing great. I will say I am very sad that she's not going to still be on the Sex Lives of College Girls. I really liked her on that show. I don't think
know if that show is going to last.
I don't know. I don't know about that show without her the Leighton character, which is her character on that show. I don't think it'll be as good, unfortunately.
I think a lot of people liked her queer story too. So
yeah.
I feel like a lot of people watched the show for that. So I don't know what moves were going on there, but I don't know if they were smart moves. I think at that point, if I was Mindy Kaling, I'd be like, yeah, do your tour. We'll take a break. We'll wait for you.
I didn't realize that was why she left the show, is because they wouldn't, reschedule around her, her touring schedule.
That was it. But also, I think it was more of an ego thing too, where she like didn't give them the heads up or something like that, and then ego's got in the way. At that point, I just keep my ego to the side because I want my show still, and that's a favorite character. I'll be like, yeah, do your tour. We'll wait for you. I think about like shows like, and I'm not a Always Sunny, super fan, but Always Sunny does it where they just literally film whenever they want and they just work around all their schedules. And that's why that show's still around, because
that is so true. I didn't even think about that. Yeah. They'll just like drop a new season of the show and you'll be like, oh, when was the last season? Was that like 2 years ago? And they're like, yeah, I mean, you get it when we give it to you.
And people don't care because people love that show. So like with College Girls, it's an HBO Max show. So you would think you'd be able to work around schedules, especially now. I'm sure there's so many things delayed and moving things around. Like, I think it would make sense to keep her, but I do think next season will be the last.
I think so too. It's a shame because I wanted to get like 4 seasons of the show, like you would have like 4 years of college, and they've only had 2, so it's a bummer that her character is leaving already. It's like a show with 4 main characters. It's gonna suck when one of them leaves, but that's a bummer.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening. But that's our show for our music versus match. Like we said, I'm sure we'll do another one of these, and hopefully this time we'll have all 3 of us on talking music, and maybe we'll do the Maggie Rogers one. I think that'd be fun. Or we'll have maybe a new albums come out.
That would be. As a quick scheduling note, next week, as you might know, is Thanksgiving here in the U.S. And we are going to treat ourselves to a week off.
We haven't done it in a while.
We haven't done it in a while. We're going to eat a lot of turkey and cranberry sauce with like the ridges of the can intact, and we're gonna have a good time. And then we'll be back the week after with something. We haven't quite decided on our schedule yet. So honestly, this is your time to tell us what you want to see us talk about, because we don't have a ton lined up. We have some ideas, but we don't have anything set in stone. So if you have ideas for like a top 5 list or a pilot pod, or just something that you want us to discuss, like a music or a movie, you can always send that to thelegendaryladies@gmail.com, or leave a comment on our YouTube down below, or tweet us at legends_podcast, or leave a comment on our Instagram.
You can find us everywhere. Ladies.
You can all those places and be like, this is what I want to see. And honestly, the chances are pretty good that we're going to take you up on that, because we have had some mental blocks lately about what we should talk about. It's so funny. For a long time, we had like the topics like, oh my God, well, we can't get to that now. We'll have to do that in like 2 weeks. We'll have to do that.
Then we forget it.
And then suddenly we got through like October, and suddenly it hit November, and we were like, did we run out of stuff? Like, how come we can't think of anything?
I think the hardest part is that there hasn't been any releases. So it's like, oh man.
That's so true.
Yeah. So it's a little harder when you're working on no releases. But I think by the next year, hopefully we'll get more stuff. But we'll always find something to talk about and get through that. But yeah, let us know. We love suggestions. But Morgan, what is coming up for you? What would you like to plug?
You can check me out on Supergirl Radio. The last few weeks, we have been going through the Superman family comic books from the 80s, where Kara is a soap opera star. So that has been really fun. We even have like little fun soap opera acting bits, which maybe you might find some familiar faces and the legendary ladies on an upcoming episode. So we record at Tuesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you ever want to hop into the chat and say hello, you should definitely do that. What about you, Kat? What do you got going on?
Got a Kickstarter right now. If you guys like anime, we have Slice of Life and Anime Action Adventure. It features Pokemon homage, Power Rangers, Dragon Ball Z, and Sailor Moon. It's a one shot. So if you've never read Slice of Life before, our webtoon, our queer gay webtoon, you don't have to. It's literally just a parody of these awesome franchises, and it's just like a fun little comedy book. It's just if you want to have fun. So go check that out. Yeah, follow me at Comic Uno for all the rest of the stuff. And hopefully you guys enjoyed. And I would say please stay if this is our Patreon, but it's not.
Which actually that's a good reminder before we sign off. If you ever want to stop by and talk to us in the chat, if you want to get some bonus episodes and find out what Amy thinks about modern pop music, or, hear us quiz each other. And then, I present a PowerPoint slide on mukbangs. All that kind of stuff is what you can find at our Patreon. So that's patreon.com/the legendary ladies. And we have a couple of different levels, which we're probably going to be overhauling a little bit soon. We haven't figured that one out yet either. But until then, you should definitely join us at our Patreon and support us there. And you can come and chat with us while we record. Sometimes we record, a couple of weeks in advance. So that's bonus ahead of the curve episodes that you'll get.
So enjoy and please stay on our Patreon if you're there. And if you want to join, please do. And stay legendary.